Welcome to District Command Central, your go-to source for the latest news and updates on the Washington Commanders. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a play. The Washington Commanders are staring down a tumultuous and uncertain 2026 season, and it starts with the glaring roster problems that have been mounting under General Manager Adam Peters. The optimism that surrounded the franchise after the magical 2024 campaign, which culminated in a trip to the NFC Championship and featured miraculous performances from rookie quarterback Jayden Daniels, has been replaced with frustration, disappointment, and a growing sense of dread. Peters' moves in the 2025 offseason, initially intended to solidify a Super Bowl-caliber roster, have largely backfired, exposing holes that could turn next year into a full-blown disaster. The core issue isn't just coaching or scheme. It's the construction of the roster itself, a collection of decisions that now look like missed opportunities and costly gambles that failed to deliver. While the coaching staff faces scrutiny and whispers of changes in leadership abound, the real questions revolve around how Peters will attempt to rebuild and whether a full-scale overhaul is inevitable. After a season that saw injuries, underperformance, and aging stars dominate the headlines, the Commanders' situation is precarious, and fans are left to wonder if their team can recover without major structural changes. One of the central problems that defined the 2025 season was the defensive front, or rather, the lack of a consistent pass rush. Peters' decision to select defensive lineman Josh Connerly Jr. in the first round of the draft instead of targeting a high-impact edge rusher has been widely criticized. Connerly started all 17 games for the Commanders, and while he may develop into a long-term solution at tackle, the opportunity cost of passing on someone like Nick Scourton is now painfully clear. Scourton, who was ranked 5th among edge rushers by Pro Football Focus and available with the 29th overall pick, remained on the board until the 51st pick when the Panthers selected him. In his rookie season, Scourton started 8 games, recorded 5 sacks, 9 quarterback hits, and 31 total pressures, setting a record for a rookie in the tracking era. The Commanders, by contrast, finished 22nd in the league in pressure rate, a statistic that reflects not only numbers but also the absence of the kind of energy and high-effort play Scourton brings. It is an example of how a single draft decision can ripple through an entire season, leaving the team exposed, particularly on defense, where the lack of a game-changing edge presence made injuries and aging personnel even more problematic. The defensive woes of the Commanders in 2025 were compounded by the reality that their most reliable contributors were aging stars, whose production can no longer be taken for granted. Linebacker Bobby Wagner, at 35, led the team in tackles while also finishing second with 2 interceptions. Von Miller, 36, led the team in sacks, but both players face uncertain futures as free agents or potential retirements loom. Beyond Wagner and Miller, the defensive unit offered few bright spots. Cornerback Mike Sainristil led with 4 interceptions and 12 passes defended, yet he remains far from a Pro Bowl-level talent. Trey Amos showed flashes in his rookie season before injuries curtailed his progress. Defensive tackle Darren Payne, once a Pro Bowl-caliber player in 2022, has declined sharply, recording just 3 sacks and 8 quarterback hits at 29 years old. Javon Kinlaw, who was brought in on a 3-year, $45 million deal, registered 0 sacks and only 3 quarterback hits despite 17 starts, marking the worst season of his career since 2022. Linebacker Frankie Lavu, who appeared to be a building block after a strong 2024 campaign, dropped from 8 sacks and 99 tackles to 3 sacks and 86 tackles in 2025. Marzon Lattimore's struggles only add to the list of defensive challenges, suggesting that Peters faces a long road ahead if the Commanders hope to field a top-half unit in the league again. Turning to the offensive side of the ball, there are also glaring concerns that limit optimism. Quarterback Jayden Daniels remains the team's standout, but his health is paramount after a season riddled with injuries across the roster. Receiver Terry McLaurin, who turned 31 in September, had a disappointing campaign with just 582 yards and 3 touchdowns in 10 games, raising serious questions about whether his 3-year, $96 million contract is justifiable. McLaurin's previous 1,000-yard seasons, while impressive on paper, were often marginally above the threshold, and his touchdown production over his 7-year career rarely surpassed 5 per season, exposing the risk in Peters' investment. Deebo Samuel, another offensive weapon, is also aging and may no longer carry the same impact, while the offensive line has been inconsistent and the running back group underwhelming. The tight end room faces uncertainty, especially if Zach Ertz, now contemplating retirement, steps away. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, a 7th-round pick with sporadic flashes, represents a potential but unproven asset. The lack of speed and playmaking ability across key skill positions highlights the urgent need for Peters to inject explosive athletes into the roster to complement Daniels and create a balanced, dynamic offense. The broader challenge for Peters is that rebuilding the Commanders is not just about addressing individual positions. It is about reshaping the team philosophy and culture. The 2025 defense recorded a mere 10 takeaways over 17 games, reflecting a slow, plodding unit unable to pressure the quarterback or force turnovers effectively. Offensively, there was a similar lack of splash plays, limiting the team's ability to score in bursts or capitalize on momentum. Peters must prioritize speed and playmaking when targeting new additions, focusing on receivers, tight ends, and running backs capable of changing games in an instant. Defensive recruits must bring above-average athleticism, particularly on the edges, to generate pressure and disrupt opposing offenses. This strategic emphasis on speed and versatility may sacrifice some traditional power elements, but is necessary for the Commanders to be competitive in a league increasingly defined by tempo and big plays. Any misstep could prolong the team's struggles, making the 2026 season a potential turning point or a continuation of the 2025 disappointment. Despite the challenges, the Commanders did have moments of individual brilliance, primarily through veterans Wagner and Miller, who continued to defy age and injury concerns. Wagner's milestone of 2,000 career tackles, achieved during the season-ending win over the Philadelphia Eagles, placed him in elite company alongside London Fletcher and Ray Lewis, cementing his legacy and leadership role. Wagner added 5 tackles in the game to reach the historic mark, and his consistent performance over 15 NFL seasons demonstrates not only durability but also a high football IQ and commitment to excellence. Von Miller, meanwhile, tied for 9th all-time in career sacks with 138.5, earning a $500,000 bonus for his 9th sack of the season. Both veterans were on 1-year deals and expressed a desire to continue playing, providing stability and mentorship for a young roster, while also underscoring the disparity between the team's top-end talent and the overall mediocrity of the supporting cast. Their presence offers Peters a foundation to build around, but it also emphasizes how few players can be relied upon for consistent, game-changing impact. The juxtaposition of individual milestones with the team's broader struggles paints a stark picture for Washington. While Wagner and Miller continue to perform at high levels, the roster surrounding them is aging, underperforming, and lacking in elite talent outside of a handful of positions. The absence of a Pro Bowl-caliber edge rusher, the decline of previously dominant players like Darren Payne, and the underwhelming contributions from highly paid offensive weapons like Terry McLaurin highlight systemic failures in roster construction. Peters faces not only the task of upgrading talent, but also instilling a culture that encourages effort, accountability, and competitive urgency. Drafting wisely, signing impactful free agents, and managing salary cap resources effectively will be crucial as the Commanders attempt to transition from a team that flirted with the NFC Championship to one capable of sustained competitiveness. The margin for error is slim, and one misstep could extend the team's rebuild well beyond 2026. Looking ahead to 2026, the Commanders' future is uncertain but not entirely hopeless. The team requires a comprehensive strategy focused on youth, speed, and high-effort players who can energize both sides of the ball. Peters will need to identify undervalued draft prospects, target free agents who can make immediate impacts, and integrate the remaining veteran talent, particularly Wagner and Miller, into a leadership core that sets the tone for accountability and resilience. Rebuilding an NFL roster is never a simple task, and the Commanders face additional challenges due to the cap space already committed to aging players and long-term contracts that have underperformed. Nevertheless, with strategic vision, disciplined decision-making, and a willingness to take calculated risks, there remains a path forward to competitiveness. The 2026 season will likely reveal whether Peters is capable of transforming lessons learned from 2025 into meaningful roster improvements, or whether the franchise will continue to endure setbacks, injuries, and missed expectations that frustrate fans and erode momentum. Ultimately, the story of the Washington Commanders entering 2026 is one of contrasts. Brilliant individual performances juxtaposed against systemic failures, youthful potential dimmed by poor draft choices, and fleeting optimism overshadowed by mounting roster deficiencies. Peters' tenure as general manager now hinges on his ability to reconcile these competing realities, balancing the need for immediate results with the long-term imperative of constructing a sustainable, competitive roster. The decisions made in the offseason, the players added or lost, and the culture instilled will define whether the franchise can return to NFC relevance or remain mired in mediocrity. With aging stars, underperforming veterans, and a roster lacking depth and explosiveness, the margin for error is minimal. Washington fans can take pride in the milestones achieved by Wagner and Miller, but the broader picture demands accountability, vision, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about what it will take to make the Commanders contenders once again. The 2026 season will be a litmus test for Peters' leadership, a challenge that may determine the direction of the franchise for years to come. If you're enjoying the coverage, make sure to smash that like button and drop a comment with your thoughts on the Commanders' latest moves. We want to hear from you. The NFL world is buzzing with whispers, rumors, and half-heard scoops tonight. And if you think you've seen it all, think again. Sources deep inside team circles are suggesting that the Washington Commanders are orchestrating what could be one of the most talked about, jaw-dropping moves in recent memory. According to insiders who have been remarkably tight-lipped but impossible to ignore, the team is in the process of bringing Chase Young back into the fold through what is being described as a covert, under-the-radar negotiation that has taken even the most seasoned NFL insiders by surprise. And yes, the term covert is being used for a reason. Unlike the usual trade rumors that leak through multiple media outlets, this one has reportedly been brewing quietly, behind closed doors, shielded from the prying eyes of fans, analysts, and even some members of the Commanders' own front office. The story, as it is trickling out piece by piece, suggests a scenario that feels part strategic masterstroke and part high-stakes drama, a narrative straight out of a sports thriller rather than the day-to-day machinations of a professional football franchise. Sources hint that the return of Chase Young, a player whose talent is widely recognized as transcending the ordinary defensive edge, is not a simple acquisition. It's reportedly wrapped up in layers of strategic positioning, salary cap gymnastics, and a delicate dance with multiple stakeholders whose patience and discretion have been tested to the limit. Imagine, if you will, the Commanders' front office, huddled in secretive rooms, poring over spreadsheets, scouting reports, and hypothetical matchups, all while navigating the tricky waters of player negotiations that could shift the balance of power in the NFC East. The story goes that this move has been considered for months, whispered about in elite circles, dismissed by some, and guarded fiercely by others who understood that the fallout, both in media frenzy and fan speculation, could be massive. There is talk that a series of back-channel conversations have taken place, some of which allegedly included direct discussions with Young's representatives, a few covert signals sent through mutual contacts, and even a last-minute pivot in the Commanders' internal strategy after assessing potential reactions from rival teams. Those close to the situation are painting a picture of a negotiation that is anything but routine. While the media often portrays trades and signings as straightforward, the reality is that acquiring a player like Chase Young involves layers of complexity that can make even the most experienced general managers break a sweat. According to these insiders, part of the intrigue lies in the financial architecture surrounding the deal. Sources suggest that the Commanders are exploring creative ways to structure a contract that satisfies both the team's long-term salary cap considerations and Young's expectations, which are reportedly high not just in monetary terms, but also in terms of guarantees, incentives, and clauses that allow him to maintain flexibility in his career trajectory. The notion of a secretive, almost cloak-and-dagger approach to the negotiation is tantalizing because it implies a calculated gamble, one where the Commanders could either emerge as the victors of a major NFL chess game or find themselves publicly embarrassed if things unravel before they are ready to reveal them. The timing of this potential move is also fueling speculation. Sources hint that there are multiple strategic reasons for the Commanders to act now rather than later. Some suggest that the team is anticipating shifts in the league, with rival franchises potentially eyeing the same player, while others speculate that internal dynamics, ranging from locker room morale to coaching staff strategy, have created a unique window of opportunity. There is even talk of psychological maneuvering, sending signals to fans, other teams, and players in the league that Washington is serious about aggressively reshaping its roster, all without yet confirming any details publicly. This layered strategy has insiders comparing the situation to high-stakes poker, where every move must be calculated, every reaction anticipated, and every leak controlled to ensure maximum advantage. Another aspect that makes this rumored acquisition so fascinating is the personal dimension. Chase Young, as a player, carries a mix of talent, charisma, and a complicated history that makes his potential return more than just a standard sports transaction. Insiders suggest that the Commanders have been carefully weighing not only what he can contribute on the field, but also how his presence might influence the team culture, the dynamics within the locker room, and the perception of the franchise among fans and media alike. There are whispers of meetings that go beyond numbers and strategy, conversations that explore Young's vision for his role, his interactions with teammates, and the ways in which he could fit or potentially clash with existing personnel. This personal element, combined with the secrecy surrounding the negotiation, has only amplified the intrigue, making every rumor that escapes feel like a clue in a larger, high-stakes puzzle. Of course, in true NFL fashion, not everyone is convinced this will come to fruition. Some insiders are cautiously skeptical, suggesting that the logistical hurdles are immense and that last-minute breakdowns are not only possible but likely. Yet even in those cautionary assessments, the excitement remains palpable. The mere fact that such talks are reportedly happening has sent ripple effects throughout league circles, sparking discussions about how rival teams might respond, whether they will try to intercept the deal, and how the Commanders' front office is managing both internal and external narratives. Fans, analysts, and casual observers alike are left in a state of heightened anticipation, each rumor or report dissected for hidden meaning, potential leaks, or subtle indications that a major announcement could be imminent. The blend of speculation, secrecy, and strategic cunning has turned what might have been a routine off-season story into a saga that has captured the imagination of the entire football community. Adding to the drama, sources suggest that there are still unresolved questions that could define the final outcome. These range from potential trade-offs involving draft picks or other players, to contract clauses that may need delicate negotiation, to timing considerations that could affect team performance and league compliance. Every variable is reportedly being analyzed with meticulous attention, creating a scenario in which the margin for error is razor-thin. One insider described it as balancing on a knife edge, emphasizing that even a minor misstep could unravel months of careful planning. It's this combination of high-stakes, secretive maneuvering, and the involvement of one of the league's most dynamic defensive talents that has everyone talking, speculating, and perhaps most importantly, waiting with bated breath to see how it will unfold. At the center of it all is Chase Young himself, a player whose reputation as a game-changer precedes him. Sources suggest that Young is aware of the Commander's interest, that he has been engaged in discussions with his representation, and that he is carefully considering the implications of any potential move. His perspective adds a layer of human complexity to what could otherwise be seen as a purely transactional story. Young's career trajectory, public perception, and competitive ambitions are all reportedly factors in the negotiation, making this not only a story of team strategy, but also one of personal choice, ambition, and timing. Observers are watching closely, analyzing public statements, social media activity, and even subtle behavioral cues for indications of what his decision might ultimately be, turning the rumor mill into a fully immersive theater of speculation. Finally, while nothing is confirmed, the impact of this rumored move is already being felt across multiple dimensions. Fans are imagining the defensive possibilities, analysts are recalculating projections, and rival teams are strategizing potential responses. The intrigue of a secretive negotiation, coupled with the return of a high-profile player like Chase Young, has elevated this from a simple trade rumor to a story that could redefine how we think about team building, strategy, and the art of managing not just talent, but perception in the high-stakes world of professional football. As of now, all eyes remain on Washington, on the front office maneuvers that remain hidden from view, and on the enigmatic trajectory of Chase Young, whose potential return has transformed a routine offseason into a suspenseful, captivating saga that feels like it was written for the big screen. Whether the deal ultimately closes, whether rival teams intervene, or whether last-minute developments reshape the narrative, one thing is clear. The Commanders, Chase Young, and a very hush-hush negotiation are at the center of a story that is electrifying, unpredictable, and absolutely impossible to ignore. Thanks for tuning into District Command Central. Make sure to subscribe and follow us for all the Commanders news you need. Until next time, keep the faith and hail to the Commanders.